Good morning, I'm Radical Rick, and today on Extreme Science, we are going to try putting some bags of chips inside of my vacuum chamber. Now, if you remember, we've talked about this several times, there's 14.7 pounds of pressure all around us. That air is pushing on us, and inside of these bags, I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but there's actually air inside this bag. We're going to see what happens when we put these in the vacuum chamber. What do you think is going to happen if we remove all the air pressure around this? What do you think is going to happen to the bag? Now, you may think that that air is inside the bag to make it look bigger so that you think you're getting a better value. But I think part of it is, or the biggest part of it is, that it's there to protect the chips. Because if you have that air, now it's harder to squish those and break those chips up. It's just like when I go out to do an assembly. A lot of times I will do the egg in the bottle, and I have some hard-boiled eggs that I've already taken out the shell off, and I want to make sure that they don't get squished before I get to the assembly. So when I put them in a Ziploc baggie, I actually blow some air into it to create that cushion so that the eggs won't get squished. So is there enough air inside of this bag to actually pop the bag open when we put it inside the vacuum chamber and reduce the pressure around it? Let's see. That happened really fast. That was what, maybe 10 seconds into it, and they've all already popped open. Okay, let's see. The Funyuns and Doritos both popped on the top. The barbecue actually popped on the bottom and opened up the bag. That is because we reduced all of that pressure, that atmospheric pressure all around it. As we were sucking the air out of this and removing the air out of the vacuum chamber, all of the air inside the bag started expanding, and it was enough to pop the bag open. Let's try something a little bit different here. Now this time, before we put them in, let's go ahead and use this little pin and poke just a small hole right up here close to the edge. Just a tiny little hole to allow the air to be able to come out of there. And that way, when we draw a vacuum, it shouldn't pop the bag because it should remove all of that air. But what do you think is going to happen when we let all the air pressure back in? Let's try it and see. So we've got a hole poked in that bag. Now I'm going to draw a vacuum on this. I'll have to turn this on and off because I want to be able to draw the air out of the inside of that bag. Since I poked a hole in it, all of that air can come out of there, but it's a very small hole, and I want to make sure that we don't pop the bag. So I'm going to turn this on and off and continue to draw the air out of the bag. And then once it's done, we're going to go ahead and let all of the air back in. Hopefully we can let the air back in fast enough that when the air comes in, it'll actually collapse the bag and seal up that hole in that fold there so that no air gets back into the bag, because I want to see what the bag looks like under a vacuum with no air in it and see what happens to the chips. Let's give it a try. And look at that. As soon as we let the air back in there, all of those air molecules came in and completely crushed this bag. So this is what your bag of chips would look like if it didn't have any air in it. And I'm guessing that all of those chips are now crushed. Let's open it up and see. Now that's what your bag of chips would look like if it didn't have any air in there. So yes, it may look like they're just putting air in there to make it look bigger, but that air is actually helping to protect your chips. I'm sure that even if they're all broken up, they still taste amazing. You guys don't go anywhere.